Really did a number on your leg.
Oh yeah, starts at 7. We start at 6. We have 4 beers before then, so I can focus.
Yeah, I can see that. But do you think you'll still be able to help me collect my seeds, Morty? Are you kidding me? That's it, Rick.
Do you play games?
I can't believe this. I'm sitting here with both of my legs broken. You're still asking me.
No, I don't have a console though.
Wow, you're a monster.
Just want to see
You're like
what.
Hitler. What even Hitler
I just bought the shooters. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on just a
This
second.
is one of my all-time favorite games. It's that one where you make a plan with a team and right, and I like the physics and stuff. Like you have to count for the wind, the distance before you want to shoot someone. And then there's stealth, yeah. So they came up with part 2, but they fucked it up on this one. A bunch of Spider-Man.
I mean,
Got some more Odyssey, Assassin's Creed.
thank you. Don't worry about it.
Did you ever play the Skyrim?
No,
Sure thing,
no,
Rick.
those
I
are
think
the
you
ones.
asked Morty, but what just happened there is I went into a future dimension.
Games like that, when I get on it, I don't just do the storylines. I like to complete it 100%.
Ooh, that'll take you a long time.
Right. I mean, that's why it takes me like 1 year to finish one game. Trying to do all the side missions, find all the treasures.
Yeah, my friend Alex, he does the same thing. It takes him forever to beat it more Skyrim.
They all want to time with had a lot of fun with a lot of young ladies, but I spent so much time there. My interdimensional portal device, it's got no charge left, Morty. It's got no charge left. What? It's as good as garbage, Morty. It's not going to work anymore, Morty. Oh, jeez, Rick, that's not good. What are we going to do? I have to be back at school right now. How are we going to get back home? There's ways to get back home, Morty. It's just going to be a little bit of a hassle.
All right, I'm gonna meet everybody at Ernest.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to have to do me
Oh, I thought you do it on Tuesdays.
We changed it to Monday and just half off here.
I'm going to need you to put them way up inside your butt.
You want we have one for the road?
No, I'm good.
Like me?
That's a bad habit. I'm trying to avoid it.
Seeds aren't going to get through customs unless they're in someone's rectum, Morty.
I'm really impressed. That's really tasty. Put it away from me.
You want to bring me some tomorrow?
Sure.
Because I think that's what I'm gonna do for lunch tomorrow.
Okay. I'll be there. Big old thing.
Come on, Morty. Please, Morty.
Do you need it cold?
No,
Or just microwave it?
microwave. I could use ketchup or tea. You ever tried it?
The British.
Told you, Andrew, he is ruining our time. Wait, what are we celebrating?
Although it's fat.
It's usually that
Fish. Fish sauce.
You eat that? No, you don't eat that.
And there's no evidence that.
Okay, all right, then. See you tomorrow, 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
That's what we eat. I don't like it here, Morty. I can't abide bureaucracy. I don't like being told where to go and what to do. I consider it a violation. Did you get those seeds all the way up your butt? Yeah, Rick. Let's just get this over with, okay? I mean, these things are pointy. They hurt. That means they're good ones. You're a good kid, Morty. Those mega seeds are super valuable to my work. You've been a huge help to me. I'm going to be able to do all kinds of things with them. It's going to be great.
Good evening. Can anybody hear me? Caleb?
Yes, sir.
Cool. I'm Baron.
Yes, sir.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Kumar. I go by Kumar.
You again.
I go by Kumar.
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 Got it.
I had you for
I know. I remember.
yes.
You are quite the engineer, as I recall. You had some type of competition you were in,
Yes, sir.
and successful, as I recall.
Yes. Yeah. And right now I'm in Mobile. I landed a nice job.
That's great.
Yes.
My sister lives on the East Shore
East Shore.
of the Bay. Yeah.
Not too far.
Nope. I'm down there a good bit.
Oh.
Caleb, are you there? Yukari, are you there?
I'm here.
That's great. Yukari, I see your name and I can hear you. Do you have your camera on?
Let me check. Hang on.
There we go. Good evening.
I'm at work now, so I might drift off and on because I'm in the middle
Okay.
of work right now.
I'm sorry. I've done this for 2 or 3 semesters, and I survey my students, and every time they say Monday night at 7. It's like 60 cycles. It's coming out of the walls, 60.
But it wouldn't matter because all of the days that you proposed were all work days for me because it's Tuesday morning right now on Guam, so it wouldn't have mattered
Oh
anything.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you
I'm
are a
almost
ways
dead.
off. You may get the award for being the most distant student. I think you've got Kumar beat. He's in Mobile, Alabama. So
Yeah.
I'm very early, but I wanted to check with and by the way, I'm not proficient at this. I'll tell you in advance, and I'm doing something that's tricky. I'm using 2 screens. And to be honest with you, the first thing I'm going to do in the morning is go buy a computer that's got a writable so I can get away from the 2 screen thing. It really adds to the complications. I've spoken with Zoom technicians, and it's doing things they can't predict. So I think I'm going to simplify it. Lauren, can you hear me?
Yes, I could.
Do you have your camera on?
I do. Oh, wait, sorry. I'll switch it on. Sorry about that.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, so far I've just got 4 of you chimed in, but then again, I'm really early. Caleb? I've got a Caleb Stanley square.
Hey, I'm
box,
here.
but- Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir, I can.
Do you have your camera? There you are.
There we are.
Oh no, an Ole Miss t-shirt. Oh, that's terrible. Oh well.
Can I assume you're a State fan?
I've got 2 degrees. My first 2 degrees were from State.
Gotcha.
To be honest with you, I'm indifferent.
So am I. So,
I have a brother-in-law that's a nut. He goes to the maroon and white game in the spring. He's been dragging me up there for years. But,
yep, I've got a number of friends that go to State. So I'm on the platform that State has great programs and Ole Miss has great programs, and you go to the school based off of what you're majoring in.
it is a good school. I'm married to the oldest of 4 sisters. Among the sisters and the husbands, we have 10 degrees from State.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I've been following the new coach deal that they've just gotten. Of course, Ole Miss just got a new coach too, but living here in Brandon, there's a lot more talk about state than there is Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah. Well, the funny thing is I live in a subdivision in Clinton. And, you know, if you go through the subdivision, you would think you see a lot of state and Ole Miss stuff. That's not what I see. There are LSU signs everywhere.
Oh, that's just ugly.
And that's not, it's been that way for years. It's just weird, you know? I'm trying to make small talk. I'm no good at it. Elena, can you hear me? Elena? Oh, well. Well, how many of you are early in our program? For instance,
This is my
hello.
second semester.
You're not Elena, you are Elena. How do you prefer to be addressed?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's showing my wife's name. I might have to log out
I
and log
was
back
thinking you don't look like an Elena.
in. No, that's my wife's name. Let me see if I can fix that. No, that's I'm Victor. I go by Brian, but I'm Victor.
Okay. Andrew, good evening. Can you hear me? Andrew. I think he may need to turn his speaker up. Andrew Huff, and he got up and walked away. All right, well, guys, there are 35 of you. And I'm very aware that LSU is playing for the national championship tonight. Believe me, I'm as big a football fan as anybody, but my point being, this is being recorded. I'll post a link. I'll convert it to where it's a YouTube file, post a link for you guys where you can look at it afterwards, later in the week. Not that you're going to get anything all that special tonight, but Hagen, can you hear me? Hagen,
Yes, sir.
I just wondered if you could hear me.
Oh, yes, sir, I can. Sorry.
Cool. Nah, not a problem. Crystal. Bless you.
Thank you.
Hi, yes, sir.
Do you have your camera turned on?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to figure out how to do it real quick.
Okay. Well, as I was saying, I've got 6 of you guys, 7 of you guys that have connected. There are 35 students in the class. So are you seeing a screen where you have a bunch of small windows for each of us?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if everybody chimes in, they're going to get really small. I'm guessing Zoom probably has a limit on the size where you would have to scroll.
Oh.
Andrew. Okay, Crystal, your picture came up. You did good.
Thank you.
Andrew. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very good. Just like the phone commercial. I'm seeing Shannon, but I assume that's James, right? Victor, you're not the only one that used your wife's email for this.
Well, when you said that, I was like, man, there's an Elena in the room too. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
And what happened to him? He was there and he disappeared. I'm sorry, guys, I'm stalling. When we hit 7 o'clock, I'll start to rock and roll. I'm not using these Monday night meetings for lectures per se. There's just not enough time, too much material for each week. But I am trying to reacquaint you with the basic concepts you'll be going through when you go to the lectures. James, I presume. James Gorey? James, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Come on, guys, somebody tell a joke. I can't think of anything witty to say.
You'll turn my...
That's like the State and Ole Miss fans. Games were vicious.
Yeah.
Ole Miss fans would throw firecrackers at the State fans. State fans would pick them up and light them and throw them back.
Come on now.
Hey, I'm reaching, you know.
What'd you think about the LSU Crimson game tonight?
Where do you think my head is right now?
Really?
What I did every semester that I'm teaching a graduate online, I survey the students, when would you like to meet each week? Invariably, it comes back where like 2/3 say Monday night, 7 o'clock. I think in a lot of cases, the students want to go ahead and for that week, go ahead and get into the material, get things started. And Jeff, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Perfect, I can hear you too.
Excellent.
Ashton. Ashton,
Hey,
is it Ashton or Bailey?
I go by Bailey.
Okay. Do you have your camera on?
I do not. Let me see if I can figure that out real quick.
If by any chance we should crash and burn, I'll just reschedule this for tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, get the kinks out. I've been doing this for a couple of years. My problem is I'm trying to do something tricky. I use dual screens. Bad idea. First thing I'm doing in the morning is I'm either going to get an iPad Pro or a Windows Surface, some type of single screen with a writable stylus.
I got both of them, and I like my Surface Pro. I got an iPad Pro and a Surface Pro, and I'll take the Surface any day. And I'm an Apple guy too, so.
Oh, now that is weird. You know why I didn't get? I do not want to convert to Mac. But the very reason I didn't get the Surface was because the stylus resolution is a small fraction of that of the iPad Pro.
Yeah.
So instead, believe it or not, I bought an artist tablet, something called a Wacom, but it's got higher resolution than either of those.
Yeah.
And I'll be getting a lot of, call it homework, quiz work, that you guys, where you'll literally write something on a sheet of paper, take a picture with your cell phone and send it to me. And when I want to grade it, annotate it, whatever, and then send it back to you, all of that resolution really pays off. But
Dr. Cudd, I wanted to ask, are we required to be in each of the live meetings, or can we watch it recorded?
absolutely not.
Okay.
And it also does not affect your grade. It's not even, I don't think of it as participation.
Okay. The reason I didn't respond on the night is because one night's just as good with me as the next, but I work for C-Spire as a software developer, and we have a rotation, but we're on call. I'm actually on call tonight, but I might have to, we have been having some issues, and it may be where I have to jump off.
Well, I have a bigger excuse. I wanted to watch that LSU game in the worst
Well,
way.
I do too. I've got it in there recording, and hopefully I can catch up with it by halftime. But,
well, the good news is both will be recorded. This meeting, for what little it may be worth to you, but also that LSU game. So
I work for Energy, and we have tons of folks out still, so I feel y'all's pain.
I've taught a lot of people from Energy. I've got a lot of engineers.
Oh, yeah.
Some of our best people in our program are engineers with Energy. And
oh, yeah.
So you're part of a clan.
That's exactly right.
The pipeline, I guess, if you're part of the pun. Sandy, can you hear me? Sandy Herring. Oh boy, I'm going to need help with your name. Ioriesschete. What? How do you prefer to be addressed?
Lori.
Lori. Of course.
Yes,
You just jammed your first and last name together. I
They
see.
just smashed it all in. I don't know why it did that.
Go Tigers.
That's exactly right. Just in time.
Well, at least you've got your own name. 2 or 3 of these guys are their wives' names popped up, you know.
Oh no, that's who's paying the bill, huh?
Or has control, I'm not sure. Sandy Herring, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. Just doing an audio video check. Guys, I've got 7 o'clock. You want to go ahead and get started?
Works for me.
Other people will pop in. I don't have, I've got the setting where students can just automatically jump in. I don't have to clear them. I did that to minimize
right
interruptions. Okay. Let me see if I can do this without crashing everything. Okay, that didn't do it. Do you guys see a PowerPoint slide that says FIN6541 syllabus?
Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
Cool, we're working. Okay. I need to do 3 things with you tonight. One is basically talk about the course design. This is a course in methodology, different methods for analyzing different types of corporate finance problems. And of course, in a class, you get just a shell, although we will apply these. Now, we are going to cover roughly 2 chapters a week. That's the pace you get with an 8-week graduate class. There's one very short introductory chapter, but otherwise our 2 big chapters this week are risk analysis and bond valuation. And the way we do this, in fact, maybe it'd be better if I just show you what I want you to do, what I would advise you to do. If you go to the Moodle website, you'll notice there's our first week, risk analysis, bond valuation. And you've got some resources there. I use PowerPoint when I teach, primarily because my handwriting is so bad. I don't dare handwrite things. It's better if it's typed, okay? You'll notice there are PowerPoint lecture files, and then there are YouTube video files. The YouTube video files are simply voiced over PowerPoint. They are identical to PowerPoint files. Why do I have both? Some students, and I can't blame them, would rather not listen to my raunchy voice and just look at the slides. Other students like to hear the narration. The YouTube lecture videos are actually the PowerPoint slides where I'm providing an audio commentary. However, they're huge. You know, audio video files are big. So while I can put all of the PowerPoint slides for the risk chapter into one file, I may have to break it into 5 YouTube files. Just pieces of the same lecture. What a lot of students will do, you can't print out YouTube files. You can PowerPoint files. What a lot of students will do is print out the PowerPoint files, select handouts, 3 per page, and it gives you room for taking notes. And what a lot of students will do are print the PowerPoint files, then go through the YouTube narrated files with their hard copy there where they can take notes. Does that make any sense? But that's why I have both. And one minor thing, don't let it bother you. In your book, the risk chapter is chapter 6. In the YouTube lecture videos, it's exactly the same material, but it's called chapter 8. I made the narrated videos, the voiced over PowerPoints, when a prior edition of this book was out. They did what a lot of people did, a lot of authors do today. They changed a couple of things around and otherwise did not change the content of the book at all. But they did switch my risk chapter from 8 to 6. So, all right. After tonight, probably tomorrow morning, I'll receive from Zoom a recording, an MP4 file recording of this meeting we're having tonight. I'll upload it to YouTube, and then I will send you the link. Or better yet, I'll post the link to the Moodle file. All right. What I advise you to consider doing. First, go through the lecture files. Some students like to read the book first, that's fine, but to be honest with you, I have students that perform great in this class that go through the PowerPoints Then when they get stuck, they use the book as a reference. Now, within the slides, I have added additional problems with check figures. I also, if you look at the syllabus, near the last page of the syllabus, I've assigned recommended some problems for you to tackle out of each chapter. I don't collect them. That's just to help prepare you for your major exams. When you hit your major exams, it'll be problems. But during the week, your focus is going to be on a case. You need to go through the lecture files first to understand the material. Then I've got a case where you apply some of that. And I've actually posted the solution to the case, to Moodle. You can pull it up. It's a PowerPoint, it works through it. Then on the weekend, you will have a 2-day window, Saturday and Sunday, actually Saturday from 6 a.m. to Sunday midnight, to take a little case quiz where I have changed.
Hey, right there.
Say again?
That was my bad. I'm so sorry.
No problem. Anyway, the quiz will be where I've changed up something about the case. I may have changed up a value or some condition. You have to understand the case and its solution to then adjust and rework the part that I'm asking you to rework. When you take the quiz, pull out a sheet of paper, handwrite your solution to the quiz. Take a picture of it with your cell phone. That'll be a JPG file by default. Then send it to me as an attached file. Just email it to me. You only use Moodle to see the quiz. You don't enter your answer in Moodle. You don't do anything else with Moodle. We use Moodle for you to see the quiz. Now, each case quiz comes from a large pool where you will randomly draw one of the quizzes, case quizzes for that case. It's only 5 points, and the very reason I ask you to show your work is so I can give you partial credit where it's warranted. You know, if you do like I do, and you add 2 and 2 and get 23, that way you get the lion's share of the work, the credit, pardon me. The one catch is you have a 30-minute window for the quiz. As soon as you finish the quiz, I expect you to take that picture and send it to me of your work. Any questions? Okay. The other thing you will be doing with the case.
I'm sorry, Dr. Cook, you said the 20-minute window, does that?
30.
A 30-minute window, does that, when we start, the time starts and we have 30 minutes to work it and get our photo submitted?
No, sir. You have 30 minutes to work it, but then I expect as soon as you finish it to send the photo to me. Okay. So, you know, look, what would be reasonable to take a picture and send it? 15 minutes, maybe?
Right. I just wondered, you said we didn't enter anything on Moodle, so when the time runs out, what's to stop us from working another 10 minutes before we send it in?
James, I'm not going to be sticky about that.
Okay.
I'm anal in many other ways, but not there, not with a clock.
Okay.
Most of you will finish that quiz in 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
My key thing is, as soon as you finish it, then I want you to take the picture and send the work to me.
Okay. And I go by my middle name, Shannon, not James.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know why I'm calling you James?
Because that's my first name and that's what's on your roll, but I go by my middle name, Shannon.
Well, no, your friend that contacted me about.
I sent you an email tonight. You must not have read that yet. I said he probably referred to me because he asked me. He said, "What was I listed today?" And in class, and I told him James. I said, "But that's probably what he'll recognize." But anyway.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you sidetracked.
All right. Thank you for correcting me. I didn't know. He was calling you James, so I did. Okay. So you take a quiz individually, case quiz. The other thing you do with a case is you complete a spreadsheet. I have posted a spreadsheet with where most of the case solution is there, that is all the labels and everything. I'll have a section headed inputs where you will put in values from the case. Then there will be a section labeled outputs. In those output spreadsheet cells, you will put Excel formulas to achieve the desired end. You do this in teams of 3 each. If you form your own team, which a couple of you have already done, except you need to add a third partner, that's fine. If not, though, I need to throw you in teams by tomorrow night so you can get rolling, okay? And I'll just randomly assign. So if you know a couple other people you want to work with, send me an email. Say, hey, Cud, I'm going to work with, Jekyll and Hyde over here. And one of the 3 of you on a team should send that spreadsheet to me by midnight Sunday night. So the weekend is a 2-day window to take the quiz, and so the end of it is a deadline for the spreadsheet. When I get the spreadsheet, what I will do is backtest it. I'll change some input values to see if your spreadsheet calculates a correct revised solution. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to do is to introduce you to using spreadsheet tools in financial analysis. And some students tell me that works out to be kind of handy when they get out. For some of you, it'll put you to sleep. I know some of you are so proficient in Excel, it's unreal. I'm used to that.
Did you say to finish the spreadsheet by Monday night, midnight?
No, Sunday night. The quiz window closes at midnight Sunday night, and that's also the deadline for sending the spreadsheet. And again, I'll be human. If you send it at 12:01, I'm not going to kick it out, all right?
So on the syllabus, it seemed like we would each team would have an assigned weekend where we're responsible for the spreadsheet. Is that not the case where we do it together every weekend?
Who's talking?
It's Caitlin McCarty.
Oh, okay. Caitlin, do you have your camera on?
I don't. Would you like?
If it's easy for you, great. If not, I'll imagine what you look like.
Okay.
Okay. Give me your question again.
Sure. On the syllabus, it appeared like maybe each team was assigned a weekend, and that's when we were responsible for doing our team assignment. But
No,
it sounds like we do it together every weekend.
I'm sorry. It's every weekend.
Okay.
It's almost every weekend. What we'll do is we'll go 3 weeks, 3 cases. Then the next weekend will be the midterm exam. You won't have a case for that week. Then we'll go 3 more weeks, 3 more cases, and you'll have your final exam.
Okay. Gotcha.
Short answer to the question you didn't ask, are you going to be busy? Yes. This course requires a lot of work. And so each week you're focusing on the cases, but you have to understand the material to handle the cases and the case quiz and the case spreadsheet. But each case quiz is worth 5 points. And by the way, I did change the syllabus ever so slightly earlier today. All I did was I said you're going to have 6 case quizzes. I'm dropping the lowest one. You're going to have 6 spreadsheets. I'm dropping the lowest spreadsheet score. Those are 5 points each, okay? So your total grade is going to be
260, I think.
250. That's my point. You're going to have a midterm worth 100 points, a final worth 100 points. You're going to have your weekly individual case quizzes. You're going to have 6. I count the best 5 scores. They're 5 points each, so that's 25. You're going to turn in 6 case spreadsheets, but they're 5 points each. I dropped the lowest, so that's 25. So we're talking 250 total. The reason I'm pointing this out, you really live and die based on what you do on the midterm and final exams, and they are not based on the cases. They're based on the problems in the slides and in the book. And a silence, awkward silence fell over the land. Okay.
So, Dr. Cudd, on these spread Excel case with the groups,
yep.
How best, just from historical, your other classes, the kind of work breakup, you know, person 1 does this, person 2 does this, person 2 does this. How to break up that workload?
Caleb, I got a lot of extra white noise when you were speaking, but the short answer is this. Usually the students perform great on the case spreadsheets. I mean, in every group, there's going to be somebody that's pretty proficient in Excel. Now, you'll like this part. I've totally redesigned the exams. I used to use multiple choice and some other junk. Your midterm exam is going to be like a bunch of quizzes. You're actually going to have 11 problems worth 10 points each, but you get to omit any 2. Then you're also going to have a 10-point problem that is a spreadsheet problem, a lot like one of the 3 spreadsheets you worked for the cases. And basically what I'll do is say, this should be a familiar looking spreadsheet. What would you put in cell, I don't know, C20 to accomplish the desired end? And all you'll be giving me is an Excel formula based on the spreadsheet you see before you on the exam. And by the way, just like with the quizzes, when you finish the exam, well, basically, as you take the exam, I want you to write out your problems by hand on scratch paper. Number them, you know, 1, 2, whatever. But when you finish the midterm exam, take a picture of your work. It'll be pictures. Send them to me. Do it immediately after you finish your exam. Your midterm exam will have a 2-day window, 6 a.m. Saturday to midnight Sunday. You're given 3 hours to take the exam. And your midterm and final exams will actually be monitored by ProctorU. If you've used them, you already hate them. If you haven't, you will. You know, it's like having Big Brother look over your shoulder, but it's how we maintain the integrity of your work on the exams. Now, you'll be able to schedule anytime you want within that 2-day window. Of course, you don't want to schedule a time after 9 o'clock Sunday night, because at midnight, everything turns into a pumpkin and the exam dies. So you want to start so that you have at least the full 3 hours. So don't start it before 9 o'clock Monday night. But some of you will find Saturday morning is a better time, yada, yada, yada. Again, every problem will be of a particular type. It will be drawn from a pool of problems. So, you know, you will not have the same problems to work out. Are you with me on this so far?
Yes.
Well, I'm amazed because I feel like I'm screwing this up badly. So wait, I can't say that. Baptist College. No, I can't say. I didn't say that. Wait, it's recorded. Too late. All right. So again, what I would do if I were in your shoes, I'd first print out a hard copy of the PowerPoint slides. Use that for taking notes. Again, I would print out what PowerPoint calls handouts, 3 to a page. It's a nice trade-off between not having too thick a stack of slides and yet room to take notes. Then I would go through the lecture videos and take notes as you need on the slides. If you run into anything you don't understand, write it out, take a picture and send it to me. I mean this individually at any time during the week. I'll help you with anything except working the spreadsheet, and I don't help you with that because I collect that for grading. Then I would tackle the case. Again, I've given you the case solution in the form of a PowerPoint file, but you have to understand it to be able to handle the weekend case quiz. And I guess the last thing, somewhere in there, you work with your other 2 teammates to complete the spreadsheet. And by the way, I have put a little clause, if you look at the syllabus closely, at the fine print, I put a little clause in there where you can vote the other guy off the island if you get somebody that will not help at all on your team. Doesn't happen that often. Usually students, since you're going to be eventually tested on understanding the spreadsheet for the midterm and then for the final, most students jump in. All right. I have jumped all over the place, but I actually think, oh, one other thing. When I give you a problem on the midterm, say you've got a problem on risk. Yes, you work out the problem, but then I add a question to it. Short discussion. Not the kind where you just memorize and regurgitate stuff from the book, but in the problem, you may have calculated something and I may ask you to interpret it. Or what assumption were you making when you made this calculation? This will make more sense to you as you get into the problems. This is what I'm doing in lieu of having a trove of multiple choice questions that are not problem oriented. I hope you will like the exam format. I had a lot of complaints about the multiple choice, and I understand. Any questions before we proceed? Now, I'm going to give you a really short review of a couple of key things from Chapter 1, which is the overview, Chapter 6, which is the risk chapter, one of the two big chapters. And then Chapter 5, which is bond valuation, which your case happens to be based on for this week. All right, let me catch up here. All right, Chapter 1 is an overview chapter. When you look at the slides for Chapter 1, you will see that I've pulled out what I call pearls of wisdom. Everything else, all of my other slides match up with the chapters. Not true for Chapter 1. We could spend the whole semester on Chapter 1. The author tries to throw too much in. But one of the key things you should get out of it is that in making all of our decisions, using all of these different methods, our presumed goal is to maximize shareholder wealth. At the top of the organizational chart are the owners, the shareholders. Presumably, we as managers are acting as agents for those shareholders. We're supposed to be making decisions that are in their best interest. And the way we do that is we focus on the stock price. We try to make decisions that will cause the stock price to go up rather than go down. Look, if you own stock in something like Microsoft, you want them to make decisions that cause the stock price to go up. And that's our whole premise. As you go through the other slides, you'll notice there are cases where managers misbehave. They violate this agency relationship in reality, in practice. But that's the heart of what I want you to get out of Chapter 1. Chapter 6 deals with risk. The first course that you were in, where you were introduced to risk, was statistics. And your first measure of risk was something called standard deviation. But standard deviation doesn't work well unless, if you're looking at the return on a stock, unless you're putting all your money into one stock, which nobody does. So we use instead a model that was developed. Companies use different variations of this, but this thing is called the CAPM. That's the acronym for Capital Asset Pricing Model. When you go through the risk slides, you'll find that's the heart of it. And it basically states that the required rate of return on a stock is a product of the risk-free rate. We typically use Treasury security yields for that. The return on the market, or better said, the return on an average stock. You know, if you turn on the news and they say the S&P 500 went up 1% today, what they're really saying is the average stock went up 1%. And then we have the key measure of risk for the company, which is beta. Now, this may sound familiar to people who've had undergraduate finance recently, or it may be shaking out some really old cobwebs. I set up the slides to assume you've had nothing, no background. I try to go from the ground up in the slides. You're getting the crash course from me tonight. What we're doing tonight does not suffice for a lecture at all. but hopefully it helps give you an idea of what you're about to look at. Now, the beta of an average risk stock is 1. Stocks with above average risk, like companies that are in the durables industries, automakers, tend to have betas greater than 1. Companies that are in more sedate industries like food processing tend to have betas less than 1, but betas are a measure of risk. And we use it to establish required return. I have a little bit of delay in my response time there. The CAPM basically shows that there's a positive relationship between risk and required return. We are risk averters by nature. Faced with higher risk, we want a higher return. You won't take your money out of a passbook savings account paying 1% that's guaranteed and stick it into a risky stock if your expected return on that risky stock is just 1%. To move into a riskier investment, you have to have a higher expected return. And finally, the CAPM assumes 2 things. It assumes we're risk averse by nature. Faced with higher risk, we want a higher return. And it also assumes that the average stockholder is well diversified. There's a component of risk that's diversified away when you throw it into a portfolio, throw stock into a portfolio. We make decisions at the margin, one stock at a time. Do we buy the stock? Do we sell the stock? And the relevant measure of risk is beta, market risk, which is the only risk you really have to bear if you're well diversified. Do you think the investors in the stock market are well diversified? First of all, the majority of the trading doesn't involve individuals. It's financial institutions, mutual funds, pension funds. Are they well diversified? Yeah, very much so. So those are the reasons we use the CAPM. Just to give you an example. All right, I've got a glitch here. Suppose we have a stock, GE. The risk-free rate is 5%. The return on an average stock, let's say as a proxy for that, we might use the S&P 500, is 13%, and our stock's got a beta of 1.2. So our required rate of return, if we plug all this in, would be 14.6%. In making decisions for GE, it would assume its shareholders want a 14.6% on any equity funds put into projects. Look, I know this is fast and rough, but I actually think this may make this a little bit easier for you once we get into the case and the material. The other chapter that we're covering is bond valuation. In fact, that's what your case is based on. And you're going to need a financial calculator. There are 2 basic financial calculators that students tend to use. Why? They're about $30, and a lot of the books have the keystrokes for those specific calculators in there. When you go through my slides, you will see that I provided the keystrokes for these two calculators for a lot of problems. But you need to set up some parameters for each of these calculators. You do it one time, and you're good for the semester. And I'll let you look at that on your own. Now, corporate bonds, that's how companies raise long-term debt. Let's say we're looking at microdrive bonds. And here are the features of the bonds. The microdrive bonds pay an annual coupon. We'll go European style, annual coupon payments of 6% of par, or $60 a year to the bondholder. These are 10-year bonds. So if Microsoft sells these bonds and you buy one, you get $60 a year for 10 years. And then at the end of the 10 years, you also get the face value of $1,000. So if you want a 7% return on your bond, what should the price of the bond be? The value of any investment is the present value of the future cash benefits. And if you use your calculators, for instance, let me catch up with you, sorry. For the microdrive bonds, your financial calculators, whether it's a BA2 Plus or an HP 10B2, will have a time value of money bar. And you'll see a row of keys that look like these. And that's what you'll be using for like 99% of your time value calculations this semester. If you have one of the TI series, like a TI 83, 4, 5, 6, there are also finance functions where you can do the same thing, but it's not done the same way. I'll be glad to help you individually for those of you that want to use that calculator, but to be honest with you, I'd rather go to Walmart, spring for the $30 for one of the two financial calculators. It makes everything so much easier. Hagen, I'm dying to ask you, what kind of calculator are you looking at?
It's a BA2 Plus.
Perfect. That happens to be the one I like. But the HP 10B2 will also work. All right, so for the microdrive bonds, they're 10-year bonds. You're going to make payments, whoops. Sorry. My system is so slow here. There we go. You're going to make payments of, what was it, 6% coupon? 60 a year for 10 years plus 1,000 at the end. If you want a 7% return, a 7% yield, that's your discount rate, and you calculate the price. By the way, would that bond be a discount bond or a premium bond? Correct. Z Sexton 03. How do you prefer to be addressed?
My name is Zanette, just like Jeanette with a Z. So Zanette.
Jeanette.
No, Jeanette.
Jeanette.
But with a Z, so Zanette.
Zanette. Got it. I'm slow, but I'll catch up.
No, it's okay.
No, you're right. Discount bond. Why is it a discount bond? Because the price is what?
Less than the face value.
Less than the face value. All right. I'm just taking, this is a trip down memory lane a little bit. And of course, if you wanted to get the yield on the bond, if you pay a certain price, so you pay $9.50 for the bond, what yield would that give you? Oh, come on, catch up. There we go. Golly. If you paid $9.50, then your yield will work out to be 6.7%. Is any of this looking familiar to you guys from your undergrad finance class at some point in time?
Yeah.
Can you remind me why you did negative for the present value?
It's negative because your calculator, no matter what calculator you're using, and all the spreadsheets, no matter what spreadsheet you're using, they treat everything like an investment. So some cash has to be going out, some has to be coming in. Yeah, when you calculated the price up here earlier, it actually it actually came out to be a negative number, negative 929.76. Meaning, if you want to buy the bond, that's cash out at the start, then you get back 60 a year, every year, and then 1,000 at the end.
Gotcha.
By the way, I'm planning to go out in the morning and get a laptop so I get away from this steel screen, and then there won't be all these delays, but that's another story. All right, so some of this is sounding familiar. Bond yields have many determinants. Oh, by the way, yeah, and there's also yield to call. I don't know if this rings a bell, but most bonds are callable, which means after a certain exempt period, the company can make the bondholder sell the bond back to the company. And if our particular bond was callable after 5 years, we paid $9.50 for it. And for each of those 5 years, we got that coupon payment of $60 a year. When bonds are called, they don't pay you face value, they pay you a little more. They pay what's called a call price. If you've got a 4% call premium, that means the call price would be $1,040. So if you bought the bond and after 5 years it was called, your yield would work out in this case to be 7.9%. And that's what's called the yield to call. Now, bonds have many different features that affect their yield. The bond yield is a product of a real return and inflation premium, then all kinds of other premiums for different aspects of risk or problems with the bonds. For instance, one of these one of the components is a maturity risk premium. When you work through the bond chapter, one of the things you'll be shown, longer term bonds have more volatile prices. If yields go up, longer term bonds drop a lot more. If yields go down, the price jumps a lot more. That's called interest rate risk. Your author refers to it as a maturity risk. So that longer term bonds will have a higher yield due to that feature. Bonds are rated, and you'll find the rating with your case. You're looking at a bond. And, you know, bond ratings can be AAA, AA, and so on, right? The lower the rating, the greater the risk of default. So other things held equal, a lower rated bond will have a higher default risk premium. And then finally, for some bonds, there's not a secondary market. For instance, hospital bonds, you can't sell them. They come out in a term structure, staggered maturities. You know, it won't be one 20-year issue. It'll be an issue where some of them are 5-year bonds, some are 6 years, some are 7. Because if you buy those bonds, you have to plan to hold on to the money till they mature. There's no place to sell them. So for bonds that don't have as good as liquid as secondary market, there'll be a higher liquidity premium. So all these factors affect bond premiums, yields. Now, in your case, and you can share now, we're about on the last slide. We can get to the game. In your case, you're looking at a company, it's about to sell a new bond issue. It's trying to figure out what coupon rate it should assign to the bond so that it will sell at par. So, for example, I forget what the acronym is, but our company is DDC. Seems like they may produce and sell drones, I forget. These new bonds, they're going to be BBB rated. Well, no. You're going to calculate a couple of key financial ratios, then look at some tables to figure out what the likely rating for the bond would be. I don't know it'll be BBB, but let's say it happens to be. These will be 30-year bonds with a 4% coupon. We're assuming everything is European style, annual coupons. US bonds pay interest twice a year. We're not going to fiddle with that. It's an unnecessary complication for the points we're trying to get across. And of course, the par value is 1,000. A securities exchanges long ago refused to allow any bonds to be traded if the par value was anything other than 1,000. They were trying to standardize bonds so investors could make easier comparisons. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to look at several competitors in the same industry and their bonds. And the idea is to pick the competitor whose bonds most closely resemble the DDC bonds. Okay? So for instance, and this is not in the case, but let's say one of those competitors is ABC. And the ABC Corporation bonds have the following features. They have a 28-year maturity, 4.5% coupon, They are BBB rated bonds. And right now, they're selling at $9.20 a piece. If we feel like, golly, if we feel like that's the closest match to our company, then what we would do with DDC well, what we would first do is calculate the yield on the ABC bonds. And let's assume the, come on. They're what, 28-year bonds. They're paying a 4.5% coupon, so 4.5% of 1,000 would be $45 a year. They pay 1,000 when they mature, and right now they're priced at $9.20. So right now, these bonds are yielding 5%. If we assume these are a really close match to the DDC bonds, then we would assume the DDC bonds need to yield 5%. So the DDC bonds, they're 30-year bonds. We want them to yield 5%. All companies try to design their bonds where they will sell at par. It's almost a loss of face if they don't. So they design whatever features they have to for the bonds to sell at par. So if the bonds sell at par, and of course are redeemed at par, what would the coupon rate need to be? 5%. So our decision would be, based on this most comparable company, we'd set DDC bond coupon rate equal to 5%. A lot of the cases are not that challenging. They're more like just a long problem. Some of them are more challenging to make you think more.
Can you explain real quick why you didn't, for the on the DDC bond, for the present value, why you didn't use 40 as the coupon and then as the payment, why you didn't use 40, which is the coupon value, and solve for?
Well, I didn't even calculate. The DDC bonds are not being traded yet.
Okay.
And you know what? You ask a great question. Really, the coupon is what we're trying to figure out. Caitlin, that was a good one.
Okay, so we're solving for the coupon there. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Everyone else would have been confused. Good observation. And basically, guys, that's it. That's the preview. I don't go through a full lecture. You've already got the lectures in narrated form. But the idea is to just refresh you. on these topics, and I actually think it'll help. I guess I'll find out. Any questions before we adjourn?
So was the payment $50? Is that?
Yeah, Shannon, we would make the coupon payments $50 a year, or set the coupon rate at 5%.
I thought we set that based off of the ABC.
We are. They
Okay.
are yielding 5%.
Okay,
So we said for the DDC bonds to yield 5%, what would the coupon payment, and sell at par, what would the coupon payment need to be? $50 or 5% coupon. This is how companies try to get a grip on what their bonds might sell for, or what they might have to do to get the bonds to sell for 1,000. They look at other companies, comparables. Any questions?
So the example kind of like this that we're working is just one of the problems that we'll have in the lecture. Is that correct?
The problems you'll have on the major exams will be like the problems in the slides and the ones I've assigned out of the book. And there's a variety of problems. I was showing you this because this happened to pertain to the specific case.
Gotcha.
I could have written a case where you had to work out 50 different problems, but, you know, I'm lazy.
Yeah, thanks for not doing that.
Figured that. Guys, I'm suddenly getting a feedback echo with my voice. Any other questions?
So, Dr. Cudd, this problem that we just did is going to be pretty much what we're doing this weekend with our groups.
It will be a lot like what you're doing with your case, yes.
Good. What I want.
Now, this is important to me anyway. As you start to try to work the other problems and the slide problems, the problems out of the book, I've given you check figures for the other problems in the slides. I think I use green print for those extra ones. And you've got the check figures for the problems out of the book are in the back in Appendix B, B for beta. If you try to work a problem by hand and you don't get the check figure, why don't you take a picture of it and send it to me? And then hopefully I can, by hand, show you where your mistake is. Now, I believe in disseminating information. If one student asks me a question and I respond, I would love for the whole class to see it. But students do not like their name out there big as Dallas. So my plan is this. Thomas, if you send me you say, Cut, I'm stuck. I can't get this check figure. What am I doing wrong? When you handwrite it and try to work it, just take a picture of it with your phone, send it to me. I will annotate, write on it, send it back to you, but I'll also post it anonymously. In fact, I may just email it to the whole class, but without your name on it.
Sounds helpful.
It seems when the name is on there, students do not want to jump in.
Will there be, I know in other classes, there's typically sample problems that you can use as a guide. As part of the lectures, are there sample problems in there? I just haven't gotten a chance to.
Yeah, when you look at the slides, you'll find they're loaded with problems. Mm-hmm. Not only the ones I walk and narrate you through, but additional ones with check figures for you to try. I think your comfort index is going to go up a good bit once you jump in and get started this week. But everybody's got their Achilles heel. Mine was English Lit. I couldn't make an A in English Lit if my life depended on it. And I always hold up on a pedestal those who can. But so finance may not be your bailiwick. Is that a word? Yeah. It may or may not be your strong suit, but this would be a great time to turn it into a strong suit. Any other questions?
Dr. Cudd, would there be any way to move the quiz window up to Friday?
Andrew, turn your, well, wait, I'll turn my volume up. Say again.
Would there be any way to bump the quiz window up to Friday?
Nope. Look, if you've got a full weekend, anytime from 6 a.m. Saturday to midnight Sunday, I figure that's workable. When I have tried to expand it to include a Friday, other problems arise. It's cleaner to leave it like that. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just, I have tried to do what you're suggesting and it backfires. Is that a problem with your work schedule or?
No, I'll make it work.
Good man. I think the case quizzes may be so insultingly easy to you, you know, hopefully. My goal is to insult all of you with easy problems. All right, guys, I've been yapping. Any more questions? TC.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I killed that first session and created a new one. I don't know if you know it or not, but thanks.
All righty.
Anything else, guys? Okay. I have put my cell phone number on my course syllabus on the Moodle page. If you need to, call me. I much prefer written communication where you handwrite stuff and then I can respond, but I can go either way. All right, guys. I'll see you again next Monday night at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
It's 8
Good
o'clock.
night.
Thank
You guys have a good evening. Go Tigers.
Go LSU.
Good night.
All right. All right. I'm going to end the meeting if it's all right with you guys.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. I can figure out how to stop share with it. In meeting. Bye-bye.